Well, hello and welcome to Qlik Spotlight. My name is John Sands, and today I have the very great pleasure of having Caryl Yenny, Director of Knowledge Management, under my spotlight. Hello, Caryl, and how are you?
I am fantastic, John. How are you? And thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Well, I'm just getting back into normal life after a couple of weeks vacation, so yeah, it's all good though, all good. Back into the Qlik fold once again. So, okay, I know who you are. We've met many, many times, but not everyone will know who you are. So just explain a little bit about what your role is at Qlik.
Sure. I am the Director of Knowledge Management, as you stated, and the way that I like to sum it up is my small team of 4, including me, we're responsible for distribution. So Qlik creates a plethora of content, which could be, knowledge. And our job is to make sure that gets in the hands of not only our customers, but also within internal employees. So we are the business owner of both Qlik Central, which is the Qlik intranet, as well as Confluence, which is the wiki repository, which are the two main pieces for Qlik employees.
Okay, so how long have you been at Qlik for then?
Coming up here in October will be 4 years. However, I think there is such a term as boomerang here at Qlik.
Oh,
so this is my second.
okay.
This is my second rodeo. I did join Qlik back in 2012, and I was here for 2 years. And at that point, I was the director of education programs. So back in 2012, my first order of business was to launch the Qlik academic program, which is extremely successful, as well as the start of the CAT program, the custom application training. So then I left for a year and found out about this new position for Director of Knowledge Management and re-engaged. Guess I bleed green.
Yeah, I was going to say, because, and that's a very good question, because I've interviewed a few people now just asking why did they come back? And as you said, you bleed green. What was the underlying reason though? What made you think, well, okay, I want to come back into the Qlik fold?
The reason I wanted to come back in the Qlik fold is because of the culture. We are very innovative, and we live by our core values, especially the move fast. And on a personal note, when I did leave and I did step down after the 2 years, it has been a struggle for me being a virtual employee because I work out of my home in Tampa, Florida. And even though I'm trying to get a Tampa office, I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon, I decided to take a local position where I could go into an office every day and meet with people. And it really it didn't feel right. I missed the people at Qlik and really wanted to come back, mainly because of the opportunity for a new department, knowledge management, that would have the responsibility for Qlik-wide knowledge, because we all know there is content everywhere and we are swimming in it. We're not short of content. It's the organization and making sure people know where to go to get what information is our challenge.
Yeah, and I think that's probably symptomatic. As a lot of companies are like that, aren't they? You're never short of the content, but it's actually mapping it and finding it and how to get to it. Have you always been in this kind of career? What other jobs have you done in the past?
Sure, it's interesting. Started my career in the software industry, and actually in the learning area. So started out in sales, believe it or not. I guess people could probably believe it. That's why I like to say that salespeople sometimes have the least attention span, because I feel I could say that because I have been a salesperson. In selling instructor-led training, and then moved into more of the program project management. So I ran the certification programs at Symantec, and then when I came to Qlik in 2012, was to run also the certification programs at Qlik. So it's always been around how do you get different types of information. So whether it was, say, the academic program or if it was certification, how do we actually engage with employees to get the information that they need? So it's always had that underlying thread. And isn't it interesting, having an over 20-year career, and you look back, how it just progresses, and there seems to be that common thread.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
mentioned information, and in your position, you says Director of Knowledge Management, and these are two
Hmm.
words, information and knowledge. Now, what do you, if you look at that word knowledge, and it's in your title, what do you see that word as? What does it mean to you?
That's an excellent question, and I'm glad that you asked it because let's throw a third word in there, which is content. So
Yeah.
what is knowledge, right? And what is knowledge management? And so and you'll get a different answer depending upon on who you ask. The way that I define it and the way that my small team of four is really pushing that out and is around how do we get, so first it starts with the content, right?
Yep.
So we as employees develop a ton of content, whether that is more process oriented or whether it's more promotional oriented, whatever that might be. We create a lot of content. But in order to get that out and make it knowledge, that needs to get into the hands of people so that they can absorb it. So in
Yeah.
order to get that into the hands of people, that's where the information architecture comes into play, because the language that is underlying getting content out into people is the taxonomy, and taxonomy meaning how things are structured and organized.
Yeah.
So I did want to point out that yesterday, August 28th, was the 1 year anniversary birthday of the launch of Qlik Central.
Oh, really? It's a year ago now.
It
Oh,
has been a
amazing.
year. It has been a year. And the reason I bring that up, plus I want to promote
Yeah.
it's been a year, is to talk a little bit about right now when you go to Qlik Central or for Confluence, and you go and the age old question that I get is, Carol, where am I supposed to put things? I can't find anything. We've got things everywhere. What do I do? And I want to just take a moment here with the work that went behind the launch of Qlik Central and what we're continuing to do. So you might see when you go to Qlik Central, which I hope you do, because the
Of course.
rebrand and the new look and feel, I heard you, everyone, that you couldn't see things and it wasn't as crisp. Please go out to Qlik Central, was to organize the content and information so people can easily find things. So a lot of work went into, so it's not always the visual and how it looks, or, hey, I can't find anything in
Yeah.
search, or where do I go? It's really us understanding what is that content, organizing it in a structure, so that way when you go to a certain platform, you can actually find things. So for example, in Qlik Central, there's a whole resources area. And when you click in that area, in that page, you'll find the organization of what are our different content repositories, what are
Yeah.
our different tools, and it allows people to navigate. So, so in a long, verbose way, knowledge management really is getting that information out to people so that they can actually absorb it. And without the taxonomy or the whole way we structure things, and without the governance around the people that are
Yeah.
producing things, making sure that what they have out there is accurate and timely and correct, that is the only way that we'll be able to structure appropriately and then get that out. Because like I said, we're in the distribution or supply chain business.
Yeah, yeah. So you don't create the content yourself, do you? The content is
No.
provided, then you create you are the map makers. So you create the map, and it's not, as you rightly
Yes.
said, it needs to be intuitive. You need to know how to do it. Otherwise, I mean, I
Correct.
remember way back, and this might have been before your time, we had a thing called Clickopedia. And
That's a
that
new one for
was
me.
yeah, that
Please
was
tell me it's not here anymore, because if that's another repository I need to write down.
I haven't seen it. It may be hidden around in some damp basement
Okay.
somewhere in London. I don't know, but hopefully
Let's
not.
leave it there. Let's leave it there.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. And this is, I mean, and this is not your remit at all. But another thing I think is very important is because we can map people and we can get people to them. But I don't know about your feeling. There's sometimes content, once you get there, you don't understand it. So making that content readable and legible in a
Oh,
language that everyone understands is also incredibly important, because you make your map, but then when you get to the destination, there's nothing you can use. Then that's a whole new thing,
yes.
isn't it?
Thank you so much for saying that, because that brings on another theme. Although, as you said, we don't produce the content.
No.
So let's use for example some of the culture and talent information. So there's country pages on Qlik Central, so that
Yeah.
for local employees, say for you in the UK, there's a UK dedicated page, and that's where you can go, John, to learn about the local policies and benefits in your region or
Yeah.
in your country. So we're not the producer of that content, right? That would be culture and talent and other departments. However, we are responsible for taking that content, to your point. We are really the map makers, because we're like we're like those as the planes are coming in, right? The little lights, right, to do that.
Yes.
Is we need to understand the context of the information, because one of the powerhouses that I have on my team or our skill set is user experience. And people confuse that with just, what it looks like, right? No, there's a whole art and science behind that. So we work with the teams, right? Here's all the information, and then we look at it kind of like, let's say, like lay the cards out on the table and say, okay, how do we make the story or the journey or the context, and how we're going to group this content, so it's not just a list of files, but put that context in the copy so that it leads people with that thread to get to the information. So it's how, again, the structure and the organization. So it's a handshake. Right. So although we don't own the content, we do need to work. And this is where the relationship, all of Qlik employees, all of you that are listening, you're all my stakeholders.
Yeah. And if that map doesn't work, then you're not going to find that stuff in the first place, are you?
Correct. So working with this. So I'll use a really good example of a great success story. So there's a big program that launched, I want to say maybe March or April, but earlier this year, the Sales Play program that's brought on by marketing, right? So we worked with the sales excellence team to create a whole area in Qlik Central under teams where we're organizing all the information that sales needs. So the policies, how to book things, how to, where the presentations are. And again, we're putting the context. So you might be linking them to Confluence or linking them to Salesforce or linking them, but it's kind of that central command. But what we did with the Sales Play team was it's a repeatable process of the context of the information every month when they had the blitz calls and all the corresponding resources. We actually put together a template working with them for a Sales Play page or area on Qlik Central. So every month, in fact, we're getting ready to launch the September one here for 6 cents.
Power plays, aren't they called Power Plays, I think?
Sales Plays. The Sales Plays, it's Sales Plays, And so we have a whole page dedicated, but that was a team effort with the marketing organization and sales, so that every month we put the information there so that when they launch the program, then they're directing the salespeople to this page, which has all the information laid out in context. So the map.
Excellent. So at the moment then, let's talk about where you are now and also what have we got to look forward to in the future. So if you were to sit down and someone said, right, Caryl, what's keeping you awake at night? What would that be at the moment?
What is keeping me awake at night, honestly, is the content governance piece. I'm thrilled to be on the spotlight and actually, have an ask of anyone that's listening, right? Which hopefully are going to be a lot of you, is to really take a look at what you're putting out there and what content you have, because honestly, that is your representation of your department or your your messaging to get out to the rest of Qlik. So it's really engaging with us on making sure that your content is accurate, timely, and now, it's been a year. We finally are getting that up on Qlik Central, the new brand, which really isn't new anymore, right? Because it'll be a year old. That you're using the templates and you're using the new brand, and we have that consistency, because what we do on the inside mirrors out to the outside to our customers. So if we're not taking the care and feeding to make sure our own colleagues can have trust that what they're reviewing and what they're seing, then how can we expect our customers to, understand that? And so that brings me to my next point, what keeps me up at night, but now this is in a good way, not a stress way, is just had a call, a really great call with Roberto yesterday in the support organization. And back at the launch at Connections this year, launched I guess I don't want to call it a rebrand, but just a relaunch, if you will, of the support portal.
Sure.
Okay, the look and feel. But what we did is we structured that content so that our customers now can get to the information they need quickly. Again, it's an art and a science. So the call that I had yesterday is that's another big project or initiative that we're kicking off, is really what is that next phase now. I mean, we need to iterate, right? We need to learn from our customers and really continue to structure and push out that information quickly, because it's all about, customer success and customer retention, which of course, knowledge management is a part of customer success. Yeah. So that's not a good thing. It's exciting project, and have Roberto's full backing, which is a really exciting time.
Excellent. So that's something we've got to look forward to in the future then. Anything else out there that we should look forward to?
Yes, absolutely. So Confluence. So many of you that continuously post out to Confluence or are one of the page or space administrators. So John, I know that you're one of them. I'm one of them. Might be feeling you're getting some nasty emails every once in a while reminding you of hey, this page hasn't been looked at for a while, or expiration type of thing. So we are continually putting in tools to help you with managing. So that's the archiving plugin. So what we're trying to do is Qlik, and I mean this with care and feeding. We tend to kind of be hoarders. So that's why I said this Qlikopedia, I think, as you said, I hope that it's buried somewhere, is that we find these little buckets, sure. Right? You find these buckets, and what we do is we all say, oh, the new tool of the month, and we start filling it with information, and then we go on to the next one. So there's all these buckets. So what you can look forward to and working with us is more tools for Confluence, and we really have a great governance with Qlik Central, is making sure that the content that's out there is continually correct. So this archiving plugin, for example, tool allows you to get a kind of reminder, hey, this page hasn't been edited or touched in 2 years or hasn't been looked at. To then have you go and review that and say, you know what, this isn't accurate anymore, and then archive it. So that way we're stopping the availability of inaccurate pieces. So we're going to continue to roll out new features and function in Confluence. And the other thing is now tackling the Confluence sitemap. Because everybody wants saying, make my page under, programs, right? And so all of a sudden you've got a list this long, and we have mixed terms of portals and knowledge bases and things. And so it's really, kind of looping back to that taxonomy, the language, is that consistency and how we're even terming things. What's the difference between a portal, a knowledge base?
I couldn't tell.
I can't think. Yeah, you get it.
Yeah, I do. And that's interesting you mentioned about the content, because that was one of the things way back in my pre-sales days that made Salesforce content such a headache, was the fact when you searched on something, you would find something that could be 5-6 years old, that and you also couldn't tell what was the right one, what was the wrong one. So that was always a headache.
Correct. Version control and everything. So where I'm working very hard on with the stakeholders is realizing that, and just from history, the answer is not ownership, the governance and ownership, but technology is not the answer. It's not the tool of the month, and then just let's turn the switch on and move everything over again. It is the governance and the ownership. It is the structure and the consistency, and it's really having a strategy for the content. Like what is the most important thing? So just to use an example with that as well. So as we were building the sales excellence area, for example, on Qlik Central, not everything can be priority, right? Because everyone would think, of course, because that's what you're near and dear to your heart. My stuff is the most important. Well, when you're a user going there, especially a salesperson, you can't just be inundated with a list of links or a list of just things popping at you, because where do you start and what's most important? So that's why there's a rhyme or reason as well of having that strategy and working with the departments or with initiatives, is saying, okay, talk to us, right? Talk to us in the knowledge management team. What is the biggest priority of anything that you want someone has a takeaway or list, click on and read, right? So that we can make that front and center, and it's purposeful. So I think that's the other thing too, is people realizing that, we need to solve the problem differently. It's not tool, and it's not just, search. Let's make it a Google-like search, because garbage in, garbage out, right? So now your search results are this long. So it is, like you said, Qlik is no different than any other company, and every company struggles with this. And it's going to require, some culture change here, which, I'm up for the challenge. I really am.
Excellent. I'm sure you are, Caryl. I'm sure you are. So, but we're going to change. I hesitate to use this phrase. It's used too much. We're going to change gears, Caryl. We're going to change gears.
Okay.
And we're going to now get to know a little bit more about who is Caryl Yenny, Director of Knowledge Management. This person who left and then came back again. Who is she? So, how do you
relax? This is the fun stuff, right?
Yeah, this is the fun bit. This is the interesting bit. So how do you relax?
Okay.
What gets you into that Zen state?
Well, it's interesting that you asked me that, because you can see that I'm a pretty passionate person, and so very much an extrovert. So one of the things that I took on at the beginning of the year is I became a 200-hour yoga certified instructor.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, I did. And it's actually a funny story that I wasn't meaning to be a yoga instructor. And I'm sure all of you, myself included, yoga means, okay, you're doing all the poses and the postures, right? And everything else, right? So I didn't know, and I just knew that I needed something to balance, right, to relax. So I ended up finding one day on, believe it or not, a Facebook ad of this yoga studio 5 minutes from my house. Well, where I live is the rural part of Tampa. It's just horses and cows. Yeah. And I'm like, 5 minutes from my house? There's no way. So it ends up, there is a yoga studio, very small, on someone's property. And I went there, and she said, oh, we're starting this yoga teacher training program in a month. And I'm like, well, I've maybe done 2 yoga classes in my life, so maybe I'm not quite fit out for that. And she said, well, you know what? Actually, that'd be great, because you're learning all about what yoga is. There's actually 8 arms, if you will, one of which is meditation. And so I just thought it was all the poses. And so long story short is I finished that in June. And so I am continuing to pursue my yoga practice. So that does include doing the poses and things, but also meditating. I actually have an energy room.
Do you?
If we had time, I would try to unhook me and bring you to my energy room, but I actually have an energy room where I do yoga, and I have some crystals and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm kind of going a little more on that spiritual path, but yeah, I found it just wonderful, and I encourage anybody to explore it, because it's mind-boggling. I had no idea. Yeah. So that
I'm a lapsed meditator, I must say. I don't do it. I used to do it a lot, but I don't do it so much. So I'm aware. And
we have Headspace. We have Headspace.
Yeah, that's true.
If people are more into guided, there's all different types. Yeah.
So you meditate. Yoga, fantastic. What about cooking? Are you a cooker or a cooker? If that's the right word.
Well, it is a cooker. So I do like to cook, and that's the other piece of that. But my husband actually recently has been doing a lot of the cooking. We did join a co-op farm. So part of this, with yoga and meditating is really, there's the whole nutritional piece, right? Of eating correctly and eating right. So really looking all the time for more organic, whole food type recipes. And so we'll cook together and then use what we get from the farm. In fact, my husband is out sweating right now, volunteering at the farm. So, while I work, but so whatever he comes back with the vegetables or fruits, we'll then incorporate into a dish. So a lot of salads. I've been telling him of late, a little too much soups, right? After a while, the soups and stuff. It's like So, but yeah, so I do like to cook. And then I also, the relaxation piece, believe it or not, is volunteering at an animal rescue.
Oh, nice.
Which coming up here in, actually, I just realized it's the same anniversary, the same month as my 4 years for Qlik. Coming up this October will be 4 years of a local animal rescue. I'm a dog walker. And it's for a local animal rescue.
You do a lot of stuff, don't you?
Yeah, and I actually have 2 rescues from there. It's 2 rescue dogs. So I love spending time with my fur babies.
That's fantastic. So you can cook. Last film you watched? What was the last DVD you put in your DVD player? If we do that.
Well, the last film, and I have to look because I knew you were going to ask me that. So I couldn't remember the name. Okay, The Longest Ride. So I told my husband, I said, you know what, I'd really would like to watch a movie, more of a love story. Just want to have something that's not too involved.
Yeah.
And for those of you, and I don't even know what the year was that it was made, but it has Alan Alda in there and 2 other people. But it's a love story. But what was really interesting is that it's about this bull rider. and this set in North Carolina, and this senior in college who's an art major in Wake Forest. And so it's kind of like the opposites coming together and saying, okay, I'm like art and I'm a bull rider. And then they meet Alan Alda, who ends up being in a car accident. He's elderly, and how they kind of come together. So it was just a really involved story, but lesson in there is how, quote, opposites can attract, and about compromise. And I found it just a really great movie. So for those of you that are looking for something to just watch and immerse in, I strongly recommend it.
Yeah, Alan Alda's one of my favourite actors because I grew up with him in his days. He was in MASH, wasn't he? And so
he looks so old. I'm sorry, Alan. Hopefully I know.
Yeah. God bless him. Yeah, no, I really like him. Yeah. Okay, so talking of that, but if you could spend an hour with anyone, they're dead or alive, doesn't matter. It can be family, someone I would know, maybe not. Who would that be?
Well, I'd be interested to know if you've ever heard of Danielle LaPorte.
It rings a bell.
She's alive. She's alive. Okay. Yeah. So Danielle LaPorte is a motivational speaker, and she, I've been following her. I found her randomly, like 20 years ago, and I've been following her in her career. But she's a motivational speaker. But the piece that of late, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, she has this whole methodology of, instead of us having goals to strive for maybe X amount of financial or getting out of debt or whatever that might be, right? What if we flip that model, and it's called core desired feelings, and we think about how we want to feel. So that way we align our goals, daily goals, with making sure that the end result is how you want to feel. So she's fascinating. So she does podcasts, and she's got whole programs on there. So that would be somebody I would love to meet in person. She does have circuits that she is a speaker. But even if I were to see her like face to face, like in the crowd, if you will, I would love to spend some time with her one-on-one. I find her fascinating. Yeah,
that's an interesting answer. I shall look her up once I get off this. So, okay, 2019. It's nearly autumn or fall, as you call it there.
Oh, it's crazy. Pumpkins are coming out. Halloween stuff here in the U.S. Do you celebrate Halloween in the U.K.?
Yes, we do. More and more, actually. More and more we do that.
Oh, it's just crazy.
It is crazy. But the rest of the year then, what's you mentioned some of them already. Anything maybe personal, on the personal side, what are your goals for the end of 2019?
Well, since my husband's at the farm, this is one of my goals, but actually translates to having him do some work. So since he's not here to defend himself, we can say this. Nice. So we live on a small lake, and we had just a small dock going out. We don't have a boat or anything. And just over the years, with all the rain and the hurricanes, whatever, the dock basically collapsed.
Right.
So one of my pieces is with doing yoga, and it's so nice to do that outside, the meditating or anything.
That'd be nice on the dock.
Yes, exactly. So he brought that up. So in my defense, but what I'm going to do with as being blessed to receive a lot of Inspire awards with that money is to help buy the materials. So there's instead of regular wood, it looks like wood, but it actually lasts, so you don't get the water rot and things, and then you don't get that temperature because it's so hot here in Florida, is to have that dock built, because now as we get into the fall and the weather is much more tolerable here in Florida, actually very nice, is to go then out on the dock and do my yoga practice.
That will be amazing. I am very jealous, Caryl, very jealous indeed. Well, thank you so much for getting involved with Spotlight.
Thank you very much.
And it's been an absolute pleasure, and I've learned an awful lot. And I'm going to leave you with something. So I haven't been doing them for a while, but I'm starting to reintroduce them. So this is a fun fact that you can use during wherever you want. Have it for free. It doesn't cost you anything.
Okay.
There are only 2 body parts on the human body that never stop growing. Can you guess what they are?
2 body parts on the human body.
They never
stop growing. Well, I know it's not, because having aging parents, we know that your ears and nose, I know, continue to grow. Sorry, Dad.
There you go. No, those are the ones. You've got them.
What?
They never. Only parts of the human body that never stop growing. Your nose and your ears.
You have got to be kidding me.
Nope.
Then why do when people age, their ears and noses start looking bigger? John?
Well, they never stop growing, so they must get bigger. So they're the only ones that never stop growing.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, then maybe you have to go back and edit this part because I misunderstood it. I thought you said.
No, I'm leaving it as it is. I'm leaving that as it is.
That's fantastic.
That
okay.
Is perfect. So, yes,
all right. That is perfect. You got me. You got me, John. You're tricky. You're very tricky.
Well, thank you once again, Caryl. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Take care. Batten down the hatches for that hurricane you said that's on its way. So.
Oh yes.
Be
I hope
careful.
it. Sorry for everyone up in Georgia or the Carolinas, but I kind of hope those models. I hope it swoops up and misses us. But anyway.
Okay, well, take care.
All right. Thank you so much,
Speak to you
John.
soon. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye bye.